very quiet. All right, let's go back to here. I'm going to let some folks know that I'm here. Let's see. Let's go to. Shh. Very quiet. I can hear myself on my own speaker. Alrighty then. I'm not sure how all this is going to work out for me tonight. Let's see if this will work like this. All right. Go back to YouTube. Pardon me while I'm still setting up here. Oh, I probably should have. Oh, no volume. All right. There we go. I think I fixed that. All right. So that way I won't hear myself repeating myself. For those of you who are unaware of when I do these live things, these are basic. That's what they are. They're live. There's no edits. There's you get what you get. So the idea for all this stuff is to try to share some stuff that's going on, but I want to do it live. I don't want to do those pre-recorded jump cuts where you see the talking head, and then they would you see like there's a jump edit and they're in some other same topic, but they didn't like how they said it, so they edited it back together and stuff. I really wanted just to be live and try to connect as best as I can, just to kind of show you what's going on. At least for me on my end, because I like to just to be able to talk. There's going to be some with these things there'll be some mistakes, some gaffes, hopefully not too much bad language. I'm still working on hopefully I've ordered the right piece of equipment this time, and then hopefully my video will be a little bit better for the streaming, which means I might not be using Zoom to do all the streaming like I've been doing, because I could see on the YouTube as I point to the other screen, I could see it's a little bit on the wonky side. So it is what it is for right now. Plus, you got the little Zoom logo, and then you got my little logo and all that other fun logos and stuff like that. So anyway, so I want to bring you guys up to a little bit of speed of what's been going on with good old Foto Dono. For those of you who are in the know, I've gotten a couple of regular Patreon subscribers now, Margaret and Dave, and thank you guys very much. I've making some new postcards to send out to you guys, so I appreciate that. For everyone who, anyone who jumps on board my Patreon account, you just go to Patreon and type in, patreon.com/photodono, and that'll take you right to my thing. You can become my Patreon and you can help support some of these things. I do all these videos for free, as far as the streaming goes, anything that's got the Foto Dono name attached to it, like this, like the Evening with Foto Dono Live, things like that. I'm doing all these things for free. So you can kind of jump on board and if you want to help out that one, you can also, again, go to my PayPal site. And if you go to PayPal, paypal.com/photodono, you can drop me a tip if you wish to do that, if you want to do that as well. Let's see what I contact attendees. I'm going to send some notices to somebody real quick here. And just 1 second here while I'm rude and type at the same time. Say it. All right, let's see if I remember the link. Try streaming live at the following link. I know it's so exciting watching somebody type. It gets to be more and more fun as I do these things. I still haven't quite figured out how to do all this myself. It's almost like I need another me to do this stuff. Now, I am recording this, so hopefully the recording will be of a better quality than the streaming. So I might replace that if I can, or post it someplace else. So at least to be a little bit cleaner as far as that goes. So anyway, let's see. Let's click this. Submit. All right, so that's going to, because I posted this about the streaming thing on Meetup. I also run the Meetup group. It's called the. I run a couple of Meetup groups actually. The ones that I run, and once this video is done posted, I'll post the links and stuff like that. I run the Bradenton photo group and I run the low light photo group. You know, and run's kind of a big word and it's kind of misleading. And more or less, kind of shepherd is probably the best way to describe it. But I take care of it all on my own. I don't ask for any things from Johnson Photo Imaging, even though I am also the director of education. This is just kind of like a little bit of a little side thing that I've been doing. I started again. This you might see and I'll probably stop saying this after a bit, but because since it's just starting out and not everybody has seen it so far, I'm doing this because I started doing this when the pandemic started. When the public health crisis came aboard, and I was out of work for 30 days, and I enjoyed this process and talking to you folks and just sharing some things with you and just going from that. And it was kind of a cathartic experience, and certainly it was some way to connect with everybody. Now the webinars were a little bit more interconnective, so I could actually see people and stuff. The live thing right here that I'm doing on the YouTubes is basically me trying to try to get hopefully a few more faces in there and being able so everyone can kind of see it happening there. I post this on my Facebook account and also on the Meetup group as well too. So you'll see some of that stuff there. Yeah, you can leave comments on the YouTube if you want to. And that way you can always leave a little something there for me. And if you see any mistakes or any kind of guffaws happening, just post it there. Keep in mind, as I said before, there's about 20 seconds delay from when I'm doing this through Zoom, and because that's right now it's going through Zoom, and then Zoom is then rebroadcasting it to YouTube. So that's the kind of a live thing. As I said, I'm hoping to get some new equipment, and once I get that equipment, I will be able to start doing all that stuff. I can't thank everybody enough for all their help and all the support and all their comments, in person, online, or whatever. It's been one of those things that's been keeps me wanting to do all this stuff. I really enjoy the process, and I think it's well worth doing. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's Foto Dono live. I was going to talk about a particular go over a little bit of a technique that I use for doing stuff like you see behind me, where I'm trying to capture star trails and stuff like that. Some of the base, and you can go back and look at some of the other ones, mistakes and all, and they'll see some of the things I was talking about with some of the but one of the things I'm kind of known for, at least at this particular point in my career, is I'm kind of known for doing some stuff like this. And I've gotten some nice comments from some people I respect in the field for it, and I really appreciate that. And they've been very generous with their time and helping me out and pointing me in the right direction. So it's kind of like me trying to hopefully pass the buck on to you guys who are just maybe just starting out. Now, some of you who've been hanging out with me probably know some of the stuff already, but really this is geared towards the people who are just kind of like, kind of getting their teeth wet, as it were. Now, before I get further down the road, I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's upcoming here. As I said, there's some things that I'm doing and that I'd like to share with you guys, that some events that are coming up. Now, this is part of my director of education at Johnson Photo Imaging. I wear it for that hat. So, but I think these are always some fun things to take a look at. Now, one of the things that's coming up that you guys may be of interest to is that we reached out to Tamron, or vice versa, and they're going to be doing a webinar called "Using Long Lenses to capture birds in flight. And this will be on Thursday at 3 o'clock. That's June 11th. And keep in mind, you can find all this stuff. And again, I'll be posting all the links when the website, when this finally posts. So you'll see some of that stuff in there already. But you can always go to jpiphoto.com or photodono.com. You'll see the links there, so you can go there as well. I use Eventbrite to kind of coordinate all this stuff. So I basically throw some of the JPI stuff and kind of a little bit of my stuff in there too. So I think it's coming again for Tamron. Now this is with Ken Hubbard. If you can probably see the video. I posted it here on my page, and I've also uploaded the JPI's a video channel. So you'll see it there soon. So that'll be kind of cool. So, you'll see it there. So, and we'll be doing this one as well. I don't know if we'll be doing it live yet. I'll find out a little bit next week. But keep in mind, if you want to join the webinar, anybody can sign in for that. It's going to be, again, through Zoom. And it's going to be with Ken Hubbard. And like I said, he did a really cool webinar last time with us called The Mysteries of Night Photography, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Again, the topic I kind of like right now. The next day, we're going to have Beth Hipsher from New York. She's going to be doing a wonderful photographer in her own right. She's going to be talking about why doesn't my print match my monitor? Again, both of these webinars are free, and hers is going to be at 2 o'clock on Friday. So if you're interested in doing that, that'll be fine. Beth and Kevin from Hannamule are both going to be presenters there, and they'll be talking about some of these things about how you can turn stuff like this. And I'm pointing to the back, not me, to the back. You can turn stuff like this to something else if you want. You take enough pills or you do enough exercise, I'm sure it'll all work out for you. But anyway, you can turn stuff like this into to a really good quality print. And she's going to be talking about some of those steps and stuff and some of the tools that she uses with that for these things. Then a good friend of mine, David Lee Freyer, is going to be doing a very popular event. We did this last year, about a year and a half ago now. It was called Fire and Light, and basically we did some sparklers, some fireworks, and also with steel wool. For those of you who are interested in seeing some really cool and fun photography, I would suggest checking out the link on the Eventbrite or through the two websites I mentioned for me or for Johnson. You'll see some of the some really cool examples of things he does. You can also find him, and I'll put a link in it for him as well too. It's Uncle Snaff Photography. He does some really cool stuff. His claim to his claim to fame, but the thing he likes to do is stuff like this. But he's coming kind of like a little bit of a storm chaser, which brings me up to the next thing he'll be doing later on this month. He's going to be doing called Riding the Lightning with Dave. And so, it's a little bit of a take on Metallica, So yeah, that'll be coming up. That'll be on the 23rd of June, and that'll be again an online thing. It's at 6:30. Now, the Fire and Light thing is not an online event. It's one of our first events that we'll be doing out in the world, as it were. Keep in mind, we're going to be using all the social distancing rules. The group, including the people who are part of the group, meaning me, Dave, and Kat, the other instructor. So we can only have up to 10 people all together. We do have to practice social distancing. You'll have to wear a mask. I've got 3 people signed up, so we got 6 slots already taken. I've only got 4 slots left. It's $85. This is to help not only pay Dave and Kat, but also pay for the expense of getting the equipment and the gear and all that other fun stuff. This helps keep them going, so they keep doing stuff like this for you guys. So that's basically part of that. Now, the Riding of Lightning is a paid event as well too, but it's an online event, so anybody can sign up anywhere in the world, and it's $25 for that. Again, this is to help reimburse Dave for his time. He puts with a lot of time and effort, put some of the stuff together, and it's well worth the $25 just to get a little bit of this information, just to watch him talk about this stuff. He's super passionate about it, and I highly recommend you guys check it out. The other thing too that's coming up is going to be called Getting Up Close with Jillian Bell. This is also through Tamron, and they'll be that on the 25th at 3 o'clock. So again, I would definitely check that out if you can. And also the Low Light group. That's the group I moderate quite a bit. Not moderate quite a bit. It's a group that I started I believe now 4 years ago. I think it'll be 5 years in January that's coming up. And it's been kind of fun. We've got over 300, members, and what that means is that 300 people have actually signed up for interest about the group. So I send out emails periodically to let people know about some of the upcoming events and stuff. I haven't done too much of that lately, but they'll be bringing that back on board. I've been using Facebook and Meetup to kind of coordinate those events a lot lately, but I'll be returning to doing the emails and things like that as time permits. I'll be doing another Foto Dono Live next Saturday, but after that, I might be doing something. Either I'm going to go on the road the following Saturday, so I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with that. But I'm definitely going to do another Foto Dono Live. I'm just not sure what time I'll be able to do it on. I might be on the road. I might be in a hotel, but that's okay. I'll have a virtual background, so you can't tell the difference. But the lighting might be kind of crappy. But maybe I'll have the right equipment, and then I could do it and do that. Maybe I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Well, thank you for the indulgence of trying to let you know about some of the stuff that's upcoming. I really appreciate that. And I hope you guys, again, are going to enjoy some of the stuff I'm going to go over here. One of the things that I use quite a bit is I use apps. There's quite a few number of apps I use to help me create stuff like this. There's Stellarium, there's PhotoPills. But somebody asked me last week if I could do something more about PhotoPills. Now, keep in mind, PhotoPills is an app that you can download. It's about $10, and you can download it for an Android or for, of course, for the iPhones and stuff like that, for the Mac OS. But you can download the stuff, and it's pretty self-explanatory for the most part. But if you're unfamiliar with photo technique, meaning talking about hyperfocal, depth of field, things like that, then it's going to be a little bit hard to follow until you get comfortable with these terms and these concepts and stuff like that. I've been doing this stuff since I was 15, and it's been a learning curve going up and up and up. There's things that I go over with people that sometimes I forgot that I knew this stuff, or if it's been buried in the back of my mind, and you just got to go back over it again. You get sometimes when I'm taking pictures and stuff like that, sometimes I forget that I'm used to doing this all the time. So things like I like if I go out and shoot landscapes or macro, it just becomes like second nature. It's really pretty straightforward. And sometimes I forget sometimes that there's little building blocks that you had to go up, so trying to condense all 25 years, well, not 25 years. Let's see, it was 15, I'm 50. Oh, good God. Well, anyway, it's a long time. So, we won't go into that. This was a lot less grayer, I'll tell you that much. Oh yeah, I finally got to. Oh wait, I gotta show you this. I finally got to go get a haircut. I was so happy about that. That was one of my more favorite things. Oh yeah, Margaret, if you notice, if you're watching, I now have the full Foto Dono getup. Margaret, one of our Patreon subscribers, she said, and she missed the funny Hawaiian shirt and the hat. So, but I've been looking around. I've been trying to find some more of these shirts that kind of put me like a giant tent around me. So that'd be kind of cool. Anyway, I'm digressing. So I use some of these apps and stuff like that to kind of help me find these ways. And again, if they have a really extensive tutorial on their website where you can actually find out more information about this. I'm really just going to kind of show you the stuff that I use and how I look at this and how I try to find it and try to explain some of the concepts for you. I've gone about 20-ish minutes into this already, not including the little startup. So, where I was kind of fumbling around a little bit, sending types and messages and la-di-da-da stuff out. So I'll probably spend another 30-ish minutes doing this. So, if you want to wait till it uploads, that's fine. So let's get going. So we'll see how well this works. I'm trying to keep an eye on. I'm pointing to my YouTube. It's weird. I'm looking at the monitor on my computer, and then I point to the YouTube, which is, the finger goes the other way. I know it's flipping everything around, but still, it just feels weird to me when I'm doing this, and the finger is actually going this way. So, anyway, sorry. I'm easily, look, shiny keys, All right, let me see if I can get you sharing this stuff here and see how this looks. Here we go. All right, so I want to share this with you guys and see what you guys can see Yeah, I did. Okay, there it is. Okay, it's popping up on my screen here. And keep an eye on the UV-tubies here and see what happens here. Pardon me while I take a little drink here. Let's see. I'm still waiting for YouTube to catch up, so just bear with me 1 second. Just want to make sure it's catching up on there. That's showing the screen. All right. All right, great. It's showing the screen. Let me see if I move it up. Let's see if it's going to react. It should. That's me taking a drink on YouTube already. It's like I'm talking from the past, commenting on some sort of weird time warp type of thing. But once that gets going, once I'm assured of all the things that are going on, all right, there I am moving it. As I said, this is live, so this is about as good as it's getting. Okay, great. All right, so let's start from the beginning of the stuff. So PhotoPills is the app that I like to use primarily to help me kind of plan out things. So let's go into this real quick. So PhotoPills has some really cool things on there. They have what's called My Stuff, where you got some basic things that you've already put into it. I won't really go into that too much. And then you got the Academy. The Academy is kind of like the user guides, how tools, stuff like that. And you can buy t-shirts and all sorts of other fun things as well too. Little video tutorials, which take you back to YouTube and their website and all that other fun stuff. So you guys can explore that at your own leisure as far as that goes. I'm just going to kind of go over you some of the more salient tools that I use quite a bit. Now, keep in mind, there are plenty of other apps out there that do similar things, but I haven't seen one where all of this is kind of like at the fingertips. It's a very popular tool, not just with astrophotography, but with photographers in general, because it has so much in one handheld pocket-sized app, which is really, really cool. The two things that I like the most for helping me out for planning sunsets and moons is that it actually gives you a day and time of when all the stuff is going to happen. So you got the day and you can kind of scroll through the days to check out and see how it's going to go. You can even gives you a little bit of a direction. If you notice right here, let me see if I can click my annotate here, see if it'll show up spotlight. So hopefully it's lighting up right there. It even gives you little arrows right here to kind of show you what's going on with that. You should be able to see it when it comes up on there. And the little arrow right there when I'm talking to myself on the YouTube. So anyway, so you got these little arrows right here that goes down right here showing like around 825. So it tells you the direction where everything's kind of going for up, down, so you don't get confused of where you're at. The other thing too, of course, it gives you the day and time. It talks about the golden hour, talks about silver twilight, blue hour, nautical twilight, astronomical twilight, and tells you, again, this is all about the sun. And it kind of gives you a little path of where the sun will be at what time. So if I go back to the day that I'm in right now, which is today, the 6th, right now around this time, you're looking at about where the sun's going to be at. So that's kind of the thing for that. But you can kind of move around and you can kind of play around with it. But that's kind of cool. I like that a lot and it works out pretty well. The other thing too is you got the moon right there. It gives you the date and time, all that. The other thing that's nice about that is that not only does it tell you the same thing about the sun, talks to you, but it doesn't give you the golden hour or the blue hour or all that other fun stuff. But it gives you an idea of the moon downtime, moon sunrise, moon sunset, and stuff like that. Again, with the little arrows going back and forth right here. So again, you can kind of see that happening right there. So I hope you guys can see it on your screen. So right there, it shows the time. Okay, there. I can see the red dot, so it's coming up. That's good. So anyway, so it also gives you again moon phases, which is kind of nice, kind of like that. Gives you also the elevation of the moon, when it's going to rise and everything else, how much light it's going, when the light's going to be at, and stuff like that. When it talks about azimuth, elevation, and light, so you can kind of get an idea of where you're going to see it in the sky. But the cool thing about all this stuff is that has an augmented reality, so you can actually kind of pull it around and take a look around, and so you can see the lovely augmented reality. Oh, there's the sun. No, just kidding. So yeah, there's stuff like that. I'm done. So again, there's some really cool things with that. And you got similar features. I kind of bypassed that a little bit on the sun too. If you notice, again, it's got the same things down below. You've got calendar, you got augmented reality. You even got seasons, which is a little bit different. Seasons is where you basically get to kind of figure out where the solstice and the equinox is. That's basically the furthest and the closest point that we are in our revolution around the orbit around the sun. So again, that just means how long the solstice is the longest day, the shortest day, and stuff like that. To be honest with you, I always get the two mixed up. I always have to look it up. I think the solstice is the shortest, and the equinox is the longest. I think something like that. Anyway, that's me. So anyway, so let's get out of that. Now, another thing that I like to look at some of the stuff is with the hyperfocal table. The hyperfocal table is really a cool tool. Now, for those of you who don't know what hyperfocal means that anything if you're focusing, try to get stuff out in infinity, like you're shooting stars and stuff like that. The hyperfocal, what that word means is that what they're trying to describe anyway, is they're trying to describe everything, how sharp everything is to infinity. And what that means is that when you're dealing with, if you put everything on the side, like here's the main focus point, and then there's infinity all the way out there, how much is going to be in focus from what you're trying to focus in on. So for instance, I use the Olympus OMD right up in here, and that's my camera that I'm using right now. Hang on one second. Let me move some of the stuff around. Gotta move some of my zoom stuff around here. So I use the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II, but you can click on that and it'll show you the different cameras you can choose from. These are some of them I've programmed in there, but you can see there's quite a few of them in there, including iPhones, and as well as anything else. You can kind of search up in here in the search window where you can type in the camera that you want. If you want to type in, I want to see if they have a Canon. Let's see, let's go 7D. And there you go. Comes up with the different sevens in the Canon line. They got the 70, 70 Mark II, and the 77D. So it kind of gets you in there so you can kind of pick the one that you want. And one of the things that's cool about that is it actually has the size of the sensor, the circle of confusion, and that's another thing altogether. And you got crop sensor, it's a 1.6, and the number of pixels that are actually in that particular camera. So it's kind of a cool little feature right there. So but I'm going to go back to the Olympus. Now, the lens I use primarily is what they call a 12 to, it's basically 12 to 40 millimeter lens. So I'm going to stick around there. So for instance, and it's a 2.8 on there, which means I have to kind of move this stuff, the f-stop, all the way to 2.8. And you can see I already clicked on that one right there. I can click on the other ones at my own discretion. I'm just clicking things on my phone right here. And what you can see is right there, it says 11 feet and 1 inches. And what that means is that anything that's 11 feet and 1 inches away from the camera to infinity is supposed to be acceptably sharp based on the camera, the lens, the focal length, the aperture, and of course the size of the sensor inside the camera. So you got the sensor, the focal length, the aperture, all this, it takes all the math for you and tries to tell you this is going to be the thing. My rule of thumb is try to shoot things a little bit further around. So again, what you can do is you go to the AR. The cool thing about the AR, I'm going to take the phone off the thing, so don't mind me. If you notice right there, it shows us 11 feet, but if I point it down, it shows me my feet. So that's to where if I was standing, which again, if I'm standing right there, anything that's 11 feet and 1 inches away outside that little blue line is going to be the acceptable area of focus. So again, if I'm focused to infinity, anything up to about 11 feet should be within the acceptable area of focus. Now, you might say, Donovan, if you use this, why isn't your stuff sharper than what you're doing? Well, you got to remember, too, sometimes in some of those pictures that I'm shooting, I'm dealing with really long shutter speeds. And since I'm dealing with longer shutter speeds, there's going to be some motion blur attached to it, or I'm doing multiple images on top of the other, and they're not quite lining up. And that's because that's the operator error for that. The good thing is, doing these things live and doing these little webinars is that, I don't know if you saw that just happen, but I had a little bit of a spittle come up, and at least you don't get hit. So that's a good thing. So, you don't even have to know hyperfocal, except if basically what you need to know is that if you're trying to focus. Now, there's a couple of reasons why it's important to know about this hyperfocal distance, because what if you're trying to shoot something where there's two objects in two separate time. You know, for instance, if I'm here in front of this building right here, right? So hang on one second. Just a second. Somebody's texting me here. Hang on. Somebody's lost. Let me text him real quick. Let's see. Oh, that's not what I wanted. That was the other one. The other one. Hang on a second. It was. Here we go. I said Larry. There we go. So if you're going to there, you can kind of see the. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I got distracted here. Sorry, guys. Just bear with me 1 second. So anyway, so what was I saying? Okay, so for instance, if I'm standing in front of this building right here, and like you said, we'll just pretend that there's a building behind me, which is not the virtual background, but just say it's a building, and I want to keep my face and that building in focus. Well, I could focus on the building, but the problem is if I'm starting to shoot at, let's say I'm shooting at a really wide angle lens, and I'm about 3 feet in front of the camera, well, I'm going to be out of focus. Now you can focus on me, but then with the building being focused, it might be, but again, you're changing some of the times around. So the idea is you want to keep anything that's close to the lens that you want to focus. You want to be 3 feet 9 inches away. So for instance, again, if I'm shooting at 12, oops, when we come up, there we go. At 12 millimeters or up to 40 millimeters. And I'm shooting at 2.8, then anything that's has to be a minimum distance of 123 feet and 2 inches away. So now I have a narrow the view, but anything that's within that 120 feet, 3 feet in front of the camera is not going to be in the acceptable area of focus. So depending where I am in that's the thing you got to wonder about. So if I was to shoot this and I want to zoom in on the building and me, I would have to, if somebody's gonna take a picture of me, I'd have to be they're shooting with my camera, my lens at the 2.8, I'd have to be at least 123 feet away. Now I can keep going a little bit down the scale with the f-stops and say I can go out down, make the aperture go to, let's say f18. Well, that's a little bit more acceptable. So it brings me down to 19 feet and 6 inches. And this takes an effect, again, distance and everything else is always going to play with this type of stuff. So the exit pupil, which is the aperture in this case, and the distance, the distance from the subject to the camera, all this is going to change your hyperfocal distance on this stuff. Now, the other thing too that I like on here that works out really well is that you've got something that's called spot stars, where you can make sure that the camera and you are doing a really sharp stars. Because one of the things you got to remember is that the Earth is constantly spinning, of course, and it's going around the sun, and the whole solar system actually moves around the galaxy. Now, obviously, these are all happening at different speeds and stuff like that. But the Earth, of course, since we're on it, that's the rotation we got to be concerned about because we're constantly doing this. So the stars take a long time to move there from one position to another. So it takes thousands of years for the skies to actually change constellations and stuff. So, but the spinning is much faster. The Earth spins in 24 hours. You can measure the speed of the Earth by just doing what's called star trails. Now, if you don't want star trails, that's what's behind me right here. That's basically, I'm just pointing the camera at the North Star, the northerly direction. And since the Polaris, the North Star, is in the middle, everything's kind of spinning around it right there in the background. So what happening is here, if you don't want that to happen, you want your stars to be as pinpoint as forever, then you can set your camera up in there. So you've got what's called tell your camera, you have to tell, so it knows the sensor size, you have to tell the lens, focal length, and the aperture. Now, you don't have to, for me, I don't tell the declination and stuff like that, or, you know, go to the accurate. I just want to be accurate for large prints. That's what I'm looking for. You can actually see, you can see there's a default for barely noticeable trails or useful for large. I keep it on that particular one. Now, if you want to, you can actually send the declination. The declination is basically how far is it going to be up and down like that from the horizon there. I don't do any of that stuff, you know. So, but the main thing that I do pay attention to is that there's a 500 rule and there's an NPF rule. Back in the good old days of film, we used 500 rule to mainly kind of get us in the ballpark so we can get fairly sharp stars, and that's what this is right here, the 500 rule. And you could basically, oops, I'm pointing at the wrong thing. This is right here, the 500 rule. So the 500 rule basically tells me that if I take my focal length to divide it into it, so if I'm shooting at a 12 millimeter lens and divide 500, and it gets me up to 21 seconds. So it gives me the sharpest point in the for what it thinks it is. However, that's not entirely accurate. There's actually another rule. It's called the NPF rule. And if you really want to look it up, you can. There's a whole formula based on the NPF rule, which you can look up, and you can certainly dabble in it if you want to. If your math is not my strong suit, that's why I'm glad that everyone who's done the math before me has worked all this stuff out. Thank you very much. But the NPF rule, what that does is it basically is telling me the actual amount of time about the megapixels on the camera, because it takes the sensor size, the physical size of the sensor, the number of pixels it has, and it gives you a much more accurate time for that. Now, if you notice right here, it says 7.91 seconds. Well, most of us don't have cameras that go to that, but we have 8 seconds. So it's going to be fairly close. It doesn't have to be 100% dead on as far as I'm concerned. For those who really want to experiment with that, I would say get a clock and timer and time your exposures if you want to. It's really not going to make that much of a difference as far as visual. I can't see how that would be for that. Now, I do notice with 21 seconds, I still get motion blur at 7.9 seconds or 8 seconds. I do get less motion blur. However, the dimmer stars or the dimmer points of light in the night sky are not as prevalent, because the 21 seconds allows some of that that dim light back there to kind of catch up to it. So it doesn't bother me to leave it on there. That's fine. So that's the thing I like about that. Now, the other thing too is we've got star trails. So again, what you could do is you have to tell it how long it's going to be for this thing. So you got your 20 minutes. So you click on the amount of time you want to do this for. If I do this for, oops, come here. Let's say if I want to do this for 45 minutes, and I could say, let's say 0 seconds, right? So I click done. So you can see how much star trails I got right there. Now, if I go to the angle, well, the angle is basically where's the angle of the camera pointing at and stuff like that. So I can do that. Again, most of the time, it's not too terribly far up. I'd say it's about 30-ish degrees. See right there. And of course, if I'm pointing north or south to see which way the stars are going to be trailing. So you can see there's a bit of a thing on there. Now, you say it just at the time, though, when I went to 30 degrees, it says, well, if you want to get more star trails, you're going to have to be there. If you're further up in latitude, let's say you're at 50, see more star trails. Again, we're talking about where the camera is on the Earth and as far as closer to the North Star and stuff like that. So again, this is 3 hours and 19 minutes. And again, so let's go down to 0. So I get 0. I'm at the North Pole. I'm keeping up with the Joneses. I think that's how that one works. So anyway, so basically, but I usually just leave it alone for that. So it kind of gives me an idea of how much time I really need if I want to get any kind of star trails with that. So again, you can tell the timer and set the timer for that. And it says already got the time that you put in there. And that way you keep track of that if you want to do that. And of course, you can then share all this information. That's again what they have to do it on there. All right. The other thing too is, of course, it's got the night AR, so it kind of gives you an idea where things are located in the night sky. So that kind of helps you pinpoint. It's kind of useful. This is one of the things I don't really care about in the PhotoPills. Sometimes it takes it a while for it to kind of figure it out. where it is, everything in the night sky. And sometimes it's useful and sometimes it's not, because again, it depends upon the compass of the device. And if it loses its point of reference, again, the GPS, if it can't find it, it may not have a very good accuracy about which direction is north, south, east, or west. So I typically try to use something else called Stellarium to help me pinpoint where things are. I just try to memorize where certain bright points of the sky are. Typically, the planets are usually nearby the Milky Way, so I try to be able so I can find those guys, or a bright place like Arcturus, or something along those lines, so I can find them. The other thing too is the planner. I get a lot of questions about this little planner thing. The planner thing is really of a cool tool, and if you haven't played with it yet, it's certainly well worth the time to play around with it. Let's see. Oh, I got 5 people watching now. Woohoo! I'm on top of the world, man. Hello, 5 people. So anyway, so you can see right now, this is the planner, what I was doing over in Casey Key to shoot some pictures up there. So we'll just leave that one there. If you notice right there, it has a different date. It says 5/8. This is at 6:43. I can actually move the slider down here. I grab this and just move it down. You can see it's going through the different, it's going through the golden hour to the blue hour to the nautical time to nighttime, and then so forth back the other way. And you can see how it's changing the time down below. Now, this line right here is the Milky Way, these little white dots. And if you notice, if I keep moving this, that little white line right there, that line is pointing to the core of the galaxy. Yes, that's our home galaxy, and we have a Dewey's center. This Dewey center is what this line is pointing to. And you can see where this red dot is, that's me, where I'm standing, which direction I need to be facing if I have to face the direction for that. And if I get to a point, you see right here how it's fading away. Well, it's because the good old sun is coming up and it's going to fade all that away. Now, if you notice how it's going down this way, if it's going down, that means, of course, the Milky Way is now going below the horizon. If I keep going, if you notice, well, it didn't go around the horizon, it came back the other side. Well, you got to remember, we're in the middle of the Milky Way. We're located along the ecliptic plane of the Milky Way. So we're kind of like looking at a giant ball in the middle of it. Well, that ball that we're looking at core dips below, but where's the rest of it going? Well, it's going up around still, because again, the Earth's a sphere, so everything's kind of moving around on that stuff. As far as the visualization of all this stuff. So what's all this you're saying? Well, this is also the Milky Way. It's just the part that's not as sexy or as visible. The part that's sexy and is visible is the core. And that's what everybody likes to take pictures of. They think that's really cool. And that's fine. It is really cool. And you can get some interesting shots with the other stuff, but that's part of the thing. Now, what you might be asking, what's these other lines? Well, if you pay attention to the color scheme, it shows you what they are. So again, you got the golden hour where the sun, then you got the moon with the blue hour and stuff like that. So again, I'm going to move this stuff around. So if you look right here on the moon, this blue, there's the moon. So let me back it up. Oh, too far. So if you notice, I back the moon up to where the moon's coming up right here, right, which is going to the transition from the sun to nighttime. So you can see on this little blue line, there's no moon right there right now. So I'm going to keep turning it. Oop. Now see how it's kind of moving out? See? So now you can see the moon moving across that thing. So that's what that's for. The sun, of course, is that yellow one, and it's moving all the way around to sunset. Sunrise, sunset. There's the moon. There's moonrise. And there's moon set. If you notice right here how it goes from moonrise to moon set. See the different colors? That's what you're looking at right there. Yeah. What's this line you might be saying? That's the direction I'm kind of looking at, kind of stuff, and you can kind of see that's right there. Again, you can change some of the settings on here. You can jump ahead to like dates, altitude, the horizon. You got actions, of course. I have not played around with too many of the actions where you copy, email, and all that fun stuff. You can load up your previous plans. So if you like this, you can save this plan. And so it's one of the cool things that I can do with this stuff. So if I want to save this plan, I can go to the save icon down below, click on the save icon, save the plan, give it a name, and then do that. I can also load previous plans in. So I can go up to, I want to go shoot pictures of the North Jetty. So I'll go back to North Jetty. Shows me in North Jetty. It's not the right date and time. It says it's at 5:15. Not a problem. I'll go back over here to more for date and time. And then I'll change the date and time to today. And that's what I'm going to do. Oh, that's not today. There's today. 220. There we go. 2020. Sorry. So now it's jumped ahead. So that way I get to kind of see how it's all working out. It's at 5:22. Now, if you notice right here, sometimes on the screen right here, if I hold down my finger on that particular part, you see how it kind of spreads itself out. It's just expanding the timeline on this stuff, just expanding it. If I hold my finger down on it again, it's going to recompress it again. Let's see, what time are we on here? We are at 47 minutes. Okay, cool. So the other thing too is I want to talk about a little bit as well too is talking about with depth of field. Depth of field is one of the cool little features that you can actually kind of get. It tries to give you a nice little explanation about depth of field in here. It even shows you the hyperfocal distance in there too. So if you notice right here, I was playing around with it. You notice it's kept the settings from what I had before when I was playing around with it in the other one. 40 millimeters to 2.8. The hyperfocal distance, again, it's telling me that tree, in order to be sharp at the sharpest point in infinity, has to be at least 123 feet away. It's telling me the nearest area, have to be 61.7 feet. 61.7 feet is going to be the area for that. So again, you got dealing with that. The other thing too is it kind of shows you, again, where should you place the subject to be in the best part of the depth of field. So again, you're talking about depth of field, 7 feet, 7 inches away from that. The distance must be at least 6 feet away. So again, you're working with some, it gives you some pretty decent math to help you kind of figure this out where you don't have to tell. And again, it lists everything in there for you. So you can go in there again, you can change your focal length. Now, you notice right here, it says real and 35 millimeter equivalent because a lot of the industry still thinks in that particular 35 millimeter equivalent. I do a whole class on this stuff called Looking Sharp, where we talk about field of view and stuff like that. But basically, in a nutshell, the industry tries to translate everything back to a 35 millimeter field of view or focal length, and everyone's just used to looking at it like that. You don't have to do that. You can be whatever you want to do it on. Then, of course, you got, because if I do that, it tells me the approximate focal length for that. I just leave it whatever lens I'm on, whatever. As long as it knows what camera I'm using, I'm okay. Then I have to tell it what aperture I'm on, and I have to tell me what's the relative distance to the subject, 6 feet, and where's that depth of field going to be. So again, it shows me again, the far and the near limit, the depth of field is basically about 6 feet, 7 1/8 inch. So again, I got some wiggle room to play around with this type of stuff. So it gives me a little bit of real. It tells me how far in the front, how far in the back I can be in front of the stuff, the hyperfocal distance, the near limit, everything else. And that's kind of PhotoPills in a show. You can see there's a lot more to it. And again, like I said, I'm not going to go into extreme amount of detail on this stuff. The only reason why I'm saying this is because, excuse me, they have an extremely good resource on their own website at photopills.com. I would highly recommend that and play around with that and take a look at some of the stuff. They have a great article about hyperfocal, and I'm talking about field of view and all these other things as well too. One thing we didn't go over is exposure and stuff like that. The exposure, I don't really use this particular one. It's talking about exposure all around it and stuff like that. So you can play around with that and see if you like it or not. Basically, it's another way of just kind of exploring with some of the other options on there. I've seen some other photographers use it, but I've not been a big fan of that particular one. Just briefly too, let's go to this Stellarium. I don't really use this on my phone as much. I use it on the computer, but Stellarium on the phone works out pretty well. So you can kind of see where the Milky Way is going to be. As I said before, you can see there's the galactic core. It's between south and east, and the brightest point of light near the horizon would be Antares. And I can actually scroll up. You can see, oh, look, there's our friend the moon. He's hanging in front of there. So, anyway. So that's basically my little things with PhotoPills that I've played around with it for quite some time. I've gotten quite used to it. Of course, when I first started, I had to go read the tutorials and stuff like that. All I could say is that, just take your time, explore with it. You never, you learn more from the mistakes you make than you ever do from any of the successes, so just make sure you can kind of have fun enjoying and playing around with that type of stuff. Certain cameras like my Olympus has some nice unique features. So when I'm doing star trails, it does this thing. It's called live composite. So as long as I can point the camera in the right direction that I want, there's no extra light in the foreground. I can get some interesting shots like you see before me right here. Let me pull up just for fun, and then we'll definitely end it. Actually, you know what? I could probably do this from the phone. Yeah, let's do that from the phone. Yeah, because I had issues with this before. Let's try the share screen from the phone again. There we go. Open up my Lightroom on my phone. So stuff like this. So how do I know where everything's at? Again, using PhotoPills. This is Casperson's Beach. I knew at the time, the date when I shot this picture, where it was going to be approximately be. I think if I remember correctly, Venus is in the way right there. So again, that's not horrible. So again, or Saturn, I forget which star it is. Or planet, excuse me. I keep saying star, but planet. Right up in here. So there's that. Yeah, let's see. Let's go. Good. I got a question. Is there any easy change to your location? No. Let me go back to PhotoPills real quick. I'll show you. I know what he's talking about here. So let me go to PhotoPills. So you go to the planner about changing locations and stuff like that. I have yet to find a easier way to do it. So you go to settings. If you know your altitudes and stuff like that, you can do that. You can set a custom altitude, total altitudes, and do all that fun stuff. But what I usually do is I have to back it up and I just take the pen, hold it down. I'm pushing my finger on it and I can drop it off someplace else. So if I'm going to go say play over here on St. George's Island, I'm basically getting as close as I can to that particular part. I've yet to find a way on this or read anywhere where else I can change it. But again, that's how I've been able to do that on this one right here. So I'll get to St. George's Island. And there we go. And that's basically how I can do it. Now you can, if you want to, hit this button. And this takes you right here. The button I was hitting right here is this one right here. This takes you to the exact location where you are at. Okay. If you notice right here, you've got another button right here. You hit that button. You got camera mode, you got drone mode, you got other sun mode standard. This is where you want to change some of the matte settings. I usually leave that alone. The other thing too is that if you notice right here, if I hit this little plus button, you can see right here, you got these different things. I can actually add these little buttons to everything. Stuff like that. So again, you can move around and just do stuff, move it and see how things look. changing different points. So let me back it up a little bit so you can kind of see it. So again, because you got different points of reference to play with, so you kind of swap it around. There's let's see, there's this one. I forget what that one does. Oh, back to the drawing board. I'll have to go look at that one again. But I don't use it too much, so I kind of leave that alone. So that's pretty much how I've kind of worked out. If there's somebody knows a little bit of a quicker way to get through PhotoPills, we can go through all that stuff. Oh, you're welcome, John. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. Where was it going to? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, let's go back to here. So for shots like this, again, I'm using, PhotoPills and Stellarium to kind of find the area of the sky I need to be pointing at, stuff like that. I'm looking for a bright point of light. It still doesn't stop, the occasional satellite or plane flying overhead. Oh, look, I got a package coming. Anyway, let's stop sharing now. Well, listen, guys, thank you all very much. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As I said before, once everything posts and gets on there, I'll put the links down for the websites where you can go check stuff out. Or if you want to drop me a line of support, that's fine. Even if you don't want to drop me a line of support, all I ask is that you pay it forward. Help your support out for your fellow man. Everything that's been going on, it just makes everybody so much easier if we could just kind of help pass everything on to each other. If you felt that this was good for you and you don't really want to chuck me some money because this the fat white guy behind the camera need more money. I don't know. It helps, pay the bills, stuff like that. The bills will get paid anyway. This just helps keep it, a little bit more manageable as far as that goes. So if you want to do that, that's fine. If you want to give it to somebody else, a charity that you like, or if you want to be generous to the next person you meet, then by all means do that, and that'll be fine. All I ask that you guys just, be kind and be safe and be well to each other. I mean, with everything that's going on, with all the differences and all the other stuff, normally I don't talk about any of that stuff, but there's just, things are going on. It's just kind of crazy times, and some of it's kind of sad. But anyway, so thank you all very much for tuning in. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I hope you guys will enjoy this. I went a little bit longer than usual. I try to keep this around 40 minutes. My timer is showing I've been yapping away for an hour. Oh my God. I don't know if I could take me for an hour, and I'm talking. So anyway, well, thanks guys. I appreciate it. And as I said, I'll post those links. But thank you. I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now, and I'll see you next week. If anybody has anything special you would like me to discuss, I'll do that. Otherwise, you'll know when I know. This is Foto Dono signing off. I think that's going to be my catchphrase. This is hello. Same Foto Dono time, same Foto Dono channel. Well, that's dating me. Mr. and Mrs. American, all ships at sea. No. I'll come up with something. Anyway, thanks a lot. Have a great night.